Welcome to the DJI Goggle Lounge. I'm your host, Old Pong Geezer. You're enjoying the sounds of the magnificent U.S. Army blues. The reason why I'm stalling is, this was one of the hardest videos I have tried to film. Before I could even get started connecting these goggles, I was hit with Mavic updates. After updates. After updates! I just couldn't get through it on that first night. And we were heading out to Idaho that weekend. So for Old Pong Geezer trying to figure out how to link these goggles, it just wasn't easy. In fact, I had to film this over multiple days, in multiple states. But I did finally manage it, and what you're looking at now is the first accidental image I took after I finally got this thing linked. So hang with me, we'll get right into the setup, that dastardly linking, and finally, my first flight with these goggles. And here's another accidental image I took during my first flight. We'll talk about that experience later on in this video. But I wanted to let you know that this is part 2 in a series. In the first video, I unboxed the DJI goggles and gave some first impressions right out of the box. And now, we'll get right into the components, the features, and getting this thing set up, linked, and ready to fly. Howdy folks, this is part 2 for the DJI goggle video. The last episode, I just received the DJI goggles and got through the unboxing and got really stuck having to update the Mavic and all the software. There's like 3 different updates I had to go through. So that's as far as I got, and the next day we were on a plane coming out here to Idaho, hence the background of some guest towels on the bedspread. So we're going to go ahead and keep going with this video, and this time we're going to talk about more of the features and the buttons on the headset and the goggles themselves, charging it, and hopefully we'll get it synced. Okay, so let's get right into the features of the headset itself. Charging light and how you charge the battery. The batteries are contained in the headset, is the ports on the bottom. It's got like a little weather protective cover, and you charge it up right through there. This wheel is the adjustment for the headset. You can make it bigger or smaller depending on your head size. That works out pretty good. We already talked about the padding. So this is pretty high quality, and that's the connection port that goes into your goggles, and that connects in to the port right there. And then this is sort of the release lever. There's a button in here that depresses, so that depresses this. So that's how you disconnect it. On the goggles themselves, power button, LED display. Once it's plugged in, you can check your battery power here. This is your touch screen, so as you're wearing it, this is on the right side. It's got speakers. Talked about that already. Let's see, on this side, more speakers. HDMI port. So there's a weatherproof cover, and you've got your SD card, micro SD card, headset jack, and then you've got your micro or mini, whatever they call it, HDMI cable that plugs in here, and then this goes into a standard HDMI. Let's see, DJI logo on the front, and then on the bottom, let's do it this way so it's right side up. You've got, make sure I'm zoomed in here. You've got a function button, you've got a return button, and you've got this wheel, and that's what adjusts the width of the lenses, wider or narrower depending on your face. Let's see. There's a sync button. This little thing here is the sync button, and you have to use some kind of a sharp object, not too sharp, an object to depress, like a pen or a little mini screwdriver, and you depress that to get it to sync. And how it syncs, I had a hard time at first trying to figure this out because I thought you had to go through the remote somehow. It has to, everything has to be connected. The Mavic has to be on, it has to be connected to the remote, but you're actually using the sync on the Mavic. So you're using the sync button to make sure I got the right side. Nope, that's the wrong side. That's the USB side. So as you're looking at the camera, the left side is your sync button. And so that's where your micro SD card goes, and then there's that Wi-Fi remote switch. Am I even in the camera? So micro SD card, Wi-Fi remote switch, and then that right there is the other sync button. So you press that on the Mavic, and you press that on the headset once it's all together, and it syncs, theoretically it syncs everything together. So we're going to give that a try. That's the next step. So let's get this thing together. Hopefully it's all charged up. I'm going to get this out of the way. I did find this little velvety fake velvet bag to put everything in, so I have all my accessories for the headset all in the same place. That comes in handy. Too bad they didn't have like a little bag for everything, but it's okay. You can improvise. And then really easy to get this thing together. It just snaps right in, but you have to make it snap. If it doesn't click all the way, then you won't get power. You'll know because you won't be able to get power on the thing. Oh, you can hear it click. So then when you push the power, it's just like starting the Mavic. One push, and I'm probably going to have to go through the settings again. Push and hold to get the power. One push and then push and hold. And then I'll try to flip it around. Let me get this out of the way. I'll try to flip it around so you can see the setup screen, and I'll see if I can get it set up on screen, but I don't know if it's going to show through the camera that well. I'll try to read off what it says. So you push once, push and hold, and you get the little startup beep. Let's see. So then, is there any way you guys can see that? In the screen, it's got your settings. It starts off with probably Chinese at the top, and then you use the touchpad on the side. And as you scroll down, you can hear it make a noise. Listen real quick. Listen, you can hear it. And that goes from 1 to 1. And then all you do is once you get it, I'm selecting English. Once you have the blue highlight on English, I don't know if you can see that. Then you just tap it, and you hear it beep, and that's the selection. And then it goes through the rest of the screens. It has a welcome screen. It asks what your, it tells you that the DJI Goggles support the following aircraft. And then you've got the Mavic Pro, the Phantom 4, the Phantom 4 Pro, and the Inspire 2. That's what these goggles support. If you have a drone other than that, it's not going to work. Sorry. And then there's, the next is already highlighted. Down here is previous and next. Next is already highlighted blue, so you can just tap it. And then it says terms of use. Note, stay away from manned aircraft and fly responsibly. If flying in first-person view, FPV, while using DJI goggles, a spotter is required to ensure safety. Okay, and then let's see. This one you have to... Okay, then it says, I have read and accept the terms down below. Let me see if I can... I might have to move this off camera to get this to work. Okay, so you tap it to check the box. It automatically comes to highlighted next. I don't think there's any way you guys can see that. And I might just have to cut this out and talk through it. And then you can use the assistant too, or you can use the mobile device. I'm going to use the mobile device since I don't have my laptop with me. I don't have Wi-Fi because I'm traveling. So I'm going to use with mobile device. I'm going to select it. Go to next. Wireless link is used only for the Mavic Pro. So the only way you can do this without using the assistant is if you have a Mavic Pro. Perfect for me. And then it says, connect DJI goggles to aircraft. Ensure the Mavic Pro is linked to one remote controller. Press the link button on the Mavic Pro. Alright, so let me set this down. And I'm going to pause it for a second because I got to get all this stuff hooked together and turn it on. So next time you see this, it'll be a different view. It says version check. Collecting version info, please. Something. Inconsistent. Okay, here's where I thought the problem was going to be. Inconsistent firmware found. Aircraft firmware and firmware of peripheral devices do not match. This may cause compatibility issues. Update firmware to resolve. I knew it. So all those updates I did on Thursday night when I was trying to get this thing going originally, there still needs to be an update. I think it has something to do with the batteries, because if you have multiple batteries, the update just impacts one battery at a time, I think. That's what happened to me last time, a couple months ago now. So let me see, let me run through this and see what happens. Slide to update, but see, I don't have this isn't a phone. It's just it's an old phone. It's not connected to any 4G or anything. Oh, okay, updating 44%. Okay, so I don't need Wi-Fi to do that. Unfortunately, where I'm at right now, I have no Wi-Fi. I am out in the woods. No Wi-Fi, no telephone service, cell phone service on this device. But I'm at 44%. I did try to do this once before, earlier this morning, and it told me, because I had been flying a little bit, and the battery was under 50% and wouldn't let me update. So you do have to have fresh batteries before you do this update. I'm going to guess what I'm doing here is I'm updating each of my batteries independently from that last update we did. So this might take a few minutes. I will turn this off, but keep that in mind. It took me a couple hours to get all of the updates done when I first got these goggles. Now, I hadn't updated that well, you can see on the last video. I had a couple of updates I hadn't done for about a week, but they've released a couple of big updates in the month of, where we in June. So it's taken me a long time to catch up, so I couldn't just get the goggles and turn this thing on and go. I had to go through a lot of stuff. You may have already gone through all these updates and you're safe. But for me, I got to deal with this before I can actually use these goggles. Okay, that update, which I'm assuming was for the battery, took just a couple of minutes, maybe not more than 5, probably like 3 or 4. And it seems like everything's working now. I'm still getting this version check, collecting versioning, please wait. But at one point I had a ready to go and this thing was ready. So let me see if I can go fly and see what happens. Okay. So that's overall status. I have an abnormal here. They're recommending that my calibrate vision sensor with DJI Assistant on the PC or Mac is recommended. Great. That came up when I was traveling. Can't do anything about that right now because I don't have a connection to anything to be able to do that. Love how that works. But let's see if I can get this thing synced. I'm going to flip this Mavic around so you've got a better view than just on the screen here. Mavic butt. I just hit something. Okay, so now I'm going to press the linking button. Now I'm going to press the linking button down here. Let me see if I do this. Make sure, just in case this dang thing starts up on me. And see what happens in the screen. Wait. Okay, so I'm pressing the linking button, not on this, on the Mavic. That thing's hot. The bottom of the Mavic is hot from that battery update, or whatever update that was. So I'm going to press this linking button. Am I even on screen? That light turns red. And then I'm going to make sure the blue next is highlighted, and I'm going to hit next. And it says linking DJI Goggles, and it has a countdown. It was like 60, 59, 58, then bam, it has a green check mark. If there's any way you guys can see that. And then I have a next already highlighted. I'm just going to tap it. And tip. DJI Goggles connected. C1 and C2 are now equal to the function buttons and back button in Goggles. I always want to say Google, or spell Google. Press C1 and C2 simultaneously to enter shortcut menu. Next. The 5D button in remote control can be used as touchpad for basic operations. So we're talking about that. And then, oh, complete. So I'm going to tap it and start activation. Take off and activate DJI Goggles with mobile device. I'm going to hit confirm, and then I might have to scramble if this thing takes off on me. Confirm. It's activating. There's a little circle. I'm going to put these things on and see what happens. Watch and laugh if this thing goes through the window. That thing goes through the window. Obstacle. Okay, so I stopped it because nothing's happening on the goggles. It just says activating. So I might have to go outside and actually take off. So I'm going to go try that, and I'm going to come back in here because I don't want to have to film all this to take it down and do it. So I'll be right back. Oh yeah, it worked. And we're back to that image. The very first thing I saw after the goggles activated. And here's some footage of that first flight. In hindsight, connecting the goggles to the Mavic was pretty easy. The 3 things I should have done: 1, make sure the Mavic, all the batteries, and the DJI Go 4 app were completely updated before I started messing with the goggles. 2, making sure I had some kind of Wi-Fi or cellular connection through my remote device, so the goggles would have immediately and seamlessly activated. And 3, I wish I had downloaded the full-size PDF user guide from DJI's website and reviewed that first, rather than relying on the 4-point font quick start guide and on-screen setup instructions. Those things were just not that helpful. When I first decided to buy the goggles, I thought they were a little gimmicky. I figured they would just be a fun accessory to occasionally experience that first person view, or a cool way to share your flight with family and friends, take them on that quick soaring adventure, or maybe a better way to get those precision video shots when you're flying really close to an object, or you want that specific composition that's really hard to see on your tiny phone screen. Maybe you're out there in that bright midday sun. And those 3 things turned out to be true. But after spending some time flying with these goggles, and now having a better understanding of the different modes, like the multi-user or coach mode, and the different way the goggles can be used to actively control the Mavic or the gimbal while in flight, I think there are some really sound business and recreational use cases for these goggles. And I'll explore these options and provide some detailed feedback after I've had logged, some more hours with the goggles, and I'll put that in the next video in this series. I do want to explore all of these new possibilities. So initially, flying with these goggles, it was a bit unnerving. It was a little strange to be in that contained world. Distances and perception was hard to measure, and adjusting to that sensation of speed, it took a little bit of time to get used to. But really, it only took just a few minutes to just get fully immersed in the environment. I can see that there's a bit of a learning curve, but it's not very steep, or it's not difficult to master. And in fact, I think after probably 5 minutes of getting used to it, I think you're there, and it's really a lot of fun. But no doubt if I ever severely crash my Mavic, it's going to be because of too much fun with these goggles. And that's your word of warning for the day. So I have noticed some drawbacks after just my first few hours. In the United States, at least, until the FAA changes the rules, commercial operators are going to be hard-pressed to adopt these goggles in any type of business model. They're going to need that camera operator in a multi-user mode so that the PIC can maintain control of the aircraft in that visual line of sight at all times. Because of that, the goggles may not offer enough value to offset the complexity and the expense of having to deal with the rules. However, if a commercial pilot wanted to share like real-time aerial footage with the client or some other stakeholder involved in the operation, that might add some value. So right now I'm kind of on the fence for any practical business uses. Another drawback, and for me probably the most disappointing, is the inability to focus the lenses. So if you are younger, you have that perfect near vision, then this is not going to be an issue for you. But if you're someone who needs reading glasses or has trouble with near vision, it's going to be a problem. For me, the video feed itself was fine. It took me a few moments to adjust my focus to the display once I brought that screen down in front of my eyes, but I could basically clearly see the environment I was flying through. The image itself was in focus. The information presented on the goggle main screen, however, that was just completely out of focus, and I simply couldn't read any of it. I found myself having to tilt the viewer up a little bit and look down through the opening at my controller in my hand so that I could get all of that important flight information, battery life, speed, whatever. I have read some posts online that many folks just wear some reading glasses with the goggles, but apparently that works best if you use reading glasses that your prescription strength is a few steps higher than normal. That way you can kind of make the information clear. And unfortunately, I'm kind of at the point where I barely need glasses, so I don't carry anything with me, so I didn't really have a chance to try it. I can't really say right now if it works or not, but I'll test this theory out in the next video. But I just wanted to let you know that you have no way to adjust the focus, and you might have some issues with the screen display. And moving on to another potential drawback. These goggles just do not work with every product. I don't believe they work with any other company's drone at all, besides those 4 DJI drones I identified earlier in this video. I'd really like to be able to connect these to an Xbox or run some 3D games or 360 movies off of an Android device or a computer or something. It's just really not clear from the user's manual what you can do with these. And I'm just surprised that DJI doesn't hype this potential other uses more. So look for an Old Pong Geezer update in a future video in this DJI Goggles series. We're going to find out what else you can do with these, and if they are really worthy of your hard-earned cash. And finally, the last drawback I noticed after flying around for several minutes, when I finished, and I was just walking around the house, I felt this tinge of kind of dizziness and nausea. Not severe by any means, but just a little like seasickness. And I'm not usually prone to any type of motion sickness, so I was really surprised. And it took me an hour to kind of recover from that. And so I'm not sure if it was the goggles, flying around with the goggles on, or is just some residue from some recent traveling I had done. But it's something I'm going to keep an eye on when I start fully field testing these goggles. I just thought you'd want to know about that. And please add a comment if you've experienced this too. I'm really curious. Okay, so these are my first impressions after the initial flight using the DJI goggles linked to the Mavic Pro. Go back and watch the goggle unboxing episode if you missed it, and be sure to subscribe so you can catch the final few episodes as I put these DJI goggles through their paces. Please share your comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences with the goggles, or answer any questions you may have. Maybe I'll even feature your questions in these future videos. So thanks for watching. OPG out.